Hiding your drink or hiding your drinking? This video comes off the back of a comment from James the Ferret. I think it's the second time I've done a video based on James's comments, saying how when he stopped drinking, his wife and kids or people around him had no idea about the extent of the drinking, so was surprised or almost in disbelief that he was an alcoholic. And this really resonated with me. I mean, I'll start by covering off the hiding drinks thing. You know, I wasn't much of a drinks hider. I live alone, not with family or kids or housemates, so I don't need to physically hide my drink, or didn't need to physically hide my drink in my flat. Obviously, I'd have, if people came round, I had my hiding spots, or I had little tactics. Like if someone came, I remember one time I had someone come over and I wanted to have my bottle of Fanta with half vodka in it, and obviously didn't want them to drink that. So I bought 2 bottles of Fanta, and I pretended to have a cold, or be like, oh, I think I've got a cold. I think I've got something coming on. I've got a bug. You know, it's not too bad. You know, you can still come over, but just to be safe, I bought you a separate bottle because I don't want you to catch my bug from this bottle. But that was the one that I was just drinking my vodka from throughout the night, whereas they had the just Fanta bottle. And you know, those who've watched some of my other videos know Fanta was my go-to mixer. You know, that's the other time I would hide drink, but hide in plain sight would be at work. My little bottle of Fanta, half vodka, on my desk, sipping it throughout the day. Right, so I've obviously heard a lot of stories from people though, but people would have their hiding spots where they, you know, have a couple of hip flask kind of things dotted around the house, so they can pop up to the spare room and have a swig from the box behind the things in the spare room, or they'd have a stash in the garage underneath the tarpaulin next to the bikes, whatever it was. You know, people would have their little go-to places to go and, you know, steal a quick snifter. But that wasn't really me. You know, for me it was about hiding the drinking. It was about not letting anyone in my life know how much I drank, how often I drank. It would be separate groups of people. You know, we compartmentalise our social circles almost. There's family. There's at least 2 sets of social friends, and then there's work colleagues, friends. And the idea is you rotate them. You know, one night you finish work, go for some drinks with colleagues, and then the next day going to the pub after work with some friends, another day going to a different pub in a different area with another group of friends, and yeah, and then other days just going and drinking on your own somewhere. You know, either coming home and just drinking there on my couch on my own. But when you go out, you never tell anyone. about all the other nights. So if I went out drinking with my colleagues once or twice a week, they weren't aware that I was doing the same thing every other night. And also, even when I was going out on the nights with them, I wouldn't want to make it seem like I drank as much as them. So, whereas they might make a night of it, we'd be going out and it'd get, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock. They're on the verge of like making a big night and going to a club or a casino or something like that, a proper blowout. Whereas I'm like, no, I'm fine. You guys go ahead. I'm gonna get an early night. Because I'm drinking every night anyway, and I've got a high tolerance. So when I go home and I keep drinking vodka on my couch until I fall asleep at whatever hour, I probably drank about the same amount as them, except they're going large in a casino or a nightclub, coming in the following morning feeling and looking like crap. I'm just coming into the office having kept drinking until I fell asleep at the end of the night, woke up, hangover's not that bad or not as bad as them because I've got a high tolerance, and I'm just doing that every night. So what they see is the Robin that goes out, has a few drinks and is sensible, calls it an end at a reasonable time, and comes in the following morning looking like he always does, working away. Or it'd be go for a few with the workmates, leave them a bit earlier than that so that I could go off and have drinks with other friends at another pub somewhere else. And then on Sundays at the weekend, go and see people in the evening. Don't want to turn up to that blurry-eyed. So to make sure that people at that didn't think that I'd been drinking at home before coming, I'd tell them that I'd been at another social thing earlier in the afternoon. So that if I turn up and I maybe seem a bit drunk or look a bit drunk or smell a bit drunk, I can say, oh, I was at another thing, had a couple there. I'm still fine. But I'd just been drinking non-stop. So none of the separate groups of people in my life knew. So yeah, when I stopped, when I said I'm an alcoholic, I even had friends say, but you can't be, you don't drink that much. But I did. And, my mum, I remember calling her up to say, I'm checking myself into rehab for a month. She didn't have a clue. Because she'd see me on a Sunday for family roast dinner. And I'd always control it just enough so that when I turned up for Sunday roast dinner at my parents' in the evening, we had late roast dinner, not lunchtime Sunday roast like some people, but I'd turn up there at 5, 6 o'clock and say I'd been out with friends for the afternoon, so that if they smelt the booze on my breath, I'd be like, I had a couple with friends, but I'd have basically again been over there. I might have been out, but I might have been over there. It didn't matter what it was, but I'd always have some drink before going because I was nervous about everything. I'd have a couple of drinks to calm the nerves, but I'd say I'd done something else. But I'd always keep it at the point where it wasn't. If the odd Sunday happened when I drank too much, I'd just say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, feeling a bit tired. Rather get an early night before work tomorrow." But yeah, you just always hiding. And it's kind of ironic because the reason you're drinking all the time is to hide your fear and anxiety, because you want to be able to get along with people. You don't want people to know that you're a bag of nerves and you're afraid of social rejection. You're afraid of letting people know that you don't feel comfortable in this world because you see them all getting along happy and laughing and joking, seeming like they're enjoying this life, and you don't understand why not, but you don't want them to see it, so you drink to hide it. It's all hiding. You're hiding drinks, you're hiding drinking, you're hiding your emotions, you're hiding your truth, you're hiding yourself, you're hiding everything, you're hiding your fears. So yes, James, I know where you're coming from. People didn't realise how bad my problem was. They didn't realise how much I drank was drinking. They didn't realise that I was doing it every day with a different group of people. They didn't realise that I was then coming home and drinking alone in my flat every day. They didn't realise that I was waking up and drinking before I left the house. They didn't realise that I had drink at my desk every day. I didn't realise that I needed a drink just to function because I was paralysed with fear if I didn't. So when I finally admitted to myself and finally admitted to them that I'd stopped drinking because I was an alcoholic, they didn't believe because I didn't know. Why would they? I'd hidden everything from them. You know, there were a couple of instances before I came into recovery. There were maybe one or two instances where I'd gotten a bit more inebriated. You know, the classical kind of the classic hysterical emotional breakdown, where it's like, what on earth happened with Robin last night? But funnily enough, those got worse after coming into recovery. Like I said, before coming into recovery, when everything was, you know, just ticking on, I think those hysterical things only happened once or twice. But when I was in recovery, when I was trying to deal with it, when I was really struggling, when the relapses happened and the relapses got bad, that's when hysterical Robin really came out. And a couple of times I'd be on the phone to friends having a mental breakdown, and they had to call. Like, I can't even remember who or how many times or when, but I think I had the police turn up twice. Maybe even like a fire engine at one point, or an ambulance. I'm pretty sure the fire service came at one point, but I definitely had police and ambulances turn up because friends had called them because I thought I was going to do something silly. So you can imagine how hysterical I must have been in those moments. I can't remember really. I can just about remember those instances. But when I was in recovery and the relapses were getting bad, that's when I think people got to see everything coming out. And then those people got it. They're like, yeah, wow, Robin really does have some stuff going on underneath that we didn't know about before. Maybe he is an alcoholic, and maybe he shouldn't be drinking if this is what he's like when he gets drunk now. Which is funny because that wasn't what I was like when I got drunk. It was what I was like when I got really drunk. But most of the time, I was just a top-up drinker. I was just drinking every day just to hold all the nerves at bay, just to keep them just down here at a manageable level. Yeah, so if you're hiding your drinks or hiding your drinking patterns, from people or groups of people, if you're playing people off one against the other, get to the point where you kind of lose control of it. So yeah, thank you once again, James, for that suggestion. I hope that resonated with some of you. If you got anything from that, if you think it might help anyone else, do the clicky stuff. But otherwise, I'll catch you soon. Bye.